Yeah, I mean it's the number one rule of martial law and running a government body is
Simplify. I feel like there's two, but a free country is earned through the acts of godly men.
Virtue will explode. It's not going to be a violent explosion. It's not a thermobaric explosion, but it'd be a chemical explosion. It would catch on fire.
Yeah, I mean it's the number one rule of martial law and running a government body is
Simplify. I feel like there's two, but a free country is earned through the acts of godly men.
Virtue will explode. It's not going to be a violent explosion. It's not a thermobaric explosion, but it'd be a chemical explosion. It would catch on fire.
Yeah, I mean it's the number one rule of martial law and running a government body is
Simple.
Make sure we're all recording here. Alright. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
And welcome back to another episode of Truth Disorder.
Here we are, disordering the truth.
Disorderly conduct in the Truth Disorder podcast studio. We're back, but we have some fun topics for you lined up today. Did you see the interview with Tim Tebow on the Sean Ryan podcast?
No, I have sports in one ear out the other.
You don't watch sports?
No, I don't. Gary,
That's right.
On the Tim Tebow news.
Hold on, still trying to get Charles locked in.
Charles,
There we go.
locked in.
Okay,
Oh, there he
perfect.
is.
Okay, perfect. It's hard. It's hard.
Let's go.
He went from being turned down to being
turned
on.
on.
Oh, snap.
Oh, let's go. Bring the energy.
But the
Yeah.
Tim
Yeah,
Tebow
energy.
interview.
No, so the Tim Tebow interview was kind of eye-raising. He's most of you all know him from his college days, national bowl titles, things like that. But he now runs a charitable
Did you call it the National Bowl titles?
national bowl titles.
That's an earnest moment. Take a
That's
shot.
shot for my liberal tears energy drink. Tumbler on the TikTok shot.
He used to score a lot of three-pointers.
I used to make a lot of 4-pointers and half-court shots.
Talking about Tim Tebow.
Yeah. But, anyway.
Anyway. Yeah, so...
Did I tell you that I worked in big tech?
Oh, God. Here we go.
Let's not bring up the GPS. It might go somewhere else.
The earth is flat. You've been indoctrinated your entire life. You don't know right from wrong. And Alex Jones is right about everything.
90%.
Yeah, I'll give him 90.
He'll tell you what's going on, but he'll never tell you who's doing it.
Yeah, 92%.
I just watched a short on him on X, and he was over there like interrogating the Barton Springs swim team or like swim crew, because there's now like I guess up in Austin there's lifeguards at Barton Springs. I don't know if they've always been there or whatnot, but he's like, "You're part of the problem. Let me tell you what. You're behind this big conspiracy."
Really? He did that?
Oh, dude, he's straight up lying to them. Not lying to them, but yelling at them.
They've almost always had.
It's the candle. You could actually smell now.
Dude,
How did I smell?
Dude, it's not the candle.
No?
Whoever's doing podcasts in here before us is caking on the icy hot, because it is all up in there. I like Stevie.
Back to the icy hot.
Stevie,
dude.
is Adam
Oh,
Hughes on this
snap.
mic?
Say it again.
Is Adam Hughes on this mic in the last podcast?
No, I think he was using the
He's using this one?
Yeah.
Dog, I am getting pure icy hot. Like, this is. You want some?
No.
Wanna smell
No, I
this?
smelled it last time. It does smell like icy hot.
This.
Oh, now I smell it. Now that you moved it, I smell it.
Who hates me? Stevie, is there a conspiracy going on here?
Do you
Someone
like
trying
it?
to
Do you
call me
hate it?
old? You can call me old because I'm all sore all the time now. Sorry, guys. Sorry. This is just extremely
Tim
distracting.
Tebow's not the one who kissed his son, right?
No, that was Tom Brady.
That was Tom Brady. Okay.
So Tom Brady was the one that made everybody feel a little uncomfortable with his
a
moment.
little.
Come here, son. That wasn't enough love.
Yeah.
Like, that's just like the weirdest thing you can tell your child.
Did you guys ever kiss your dad in the mouth?
No.
No.
No? Stevie, were you a mouth kisser? Me neither.
Nah.
Straight up puckered up like.
I think I have a friend that kisses his son. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways.
Yeah. No, it's because I'm sure we all know like one or two dads that. No,
No.
maybe okay.
Is
Not
it? I
me.
think maybe it's an old person thing. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
It's a wrong person thing.
It is.
It could be
Agreed.
why the world is the way it is right now.
I don't kiss.
Like,
I don't kiss my wife and I. We don't kiss our daughters on the mouth. We
Yeah.
think that's unsanitary. Like I get the affection side of it, maybe.
like you think
maybe.
it's unsanitary, but your kids don't, right?
Yeah, no. Like
I mean, your kids are like, "Mom, Dad, come here, let me kiss you on the mouth."
yeah, no, for sure. My
It's
my
like-
oldest daughter's like, why can't I get a kiss on the mouth? And I'm like, well, because my mouth is for mom.
This,
And then I look at her and I'm like, you know what I'm saying?
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're not going Brady mode in the Gates household.
Ernest is a terrible impersonation moment. No,
It's
I'm saying.
gets.
Gets, dude. I'm never.
It's freaking gets.
Yeah, at least I didn't do the goerts.
I always say goats.
Yeah, I like goats more. I think
like
it works.
goats.
Yeah,
He's the
Oh
goats.
god, I'm glad you guys like my name wrong.
it's perfect, dude. Cherry got so mad that's how you know you got a good one. She was like, it is Gats.
Gats.
All right, Mr. Goats. What do you think about the Tim Tebow interview?
So
I don't think he watched it, but
No, I did. I absolutely. I love everything that Tim Tebow has been about. I didn't really follow. I've never really followed college football growing up. Right now, maybe I watch a lot. I watch a lot of highlights and stuff because I'm a fantasy football goat. But I digress. As far as Tim Tebow, I've followed him personally for over a decade now, and to see how he has actually, championed and just exhibited his commitment to the faith and his identity and trying to chase that with Christ. What's interesting to me is, he's always had this just kind of shine about him. He's always had this just aura, this energy that you can feel almost through the screen whenever he's talking or being interviewed. This podcast with Sean Ryan was the first time that I've actually seen Tim Tebow just jaded, just in so much pain and just in a dark place, almost like Jim Caviezel.
Yeah.
We talked about when he, what he went through to play his role in Sound of Freedom. This is the same thing, man. And the facts, the bombs that he was dropping, it's these are things. Like I always got mocked and ridiculed for being a conspiracy theorist because I always believed since 2015 that we do live under a satanic regime, and the things that I was reading about happening, for it, just a part of me just made too much sense to not believe it, and I correlated that to history. What has been the oldest practice for paganism, for idolatry? It's the sacrifice of children, literally just sacrificing, throwing kids into a burning altar at the altar of Moloch and Baal. And to see that a lot of these things are coming to fruition, a lot of these things are actually being publicized. I think it's yes, it's sad, but it's also promising to see a shift in awareness.
right.
And so people like Tim Tebow to me are, I'm not going to say I idolize people like that because I don't want to idolize another person. However, I hope they get a lot more influence to wake people up.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. You said he was jaded. A lot of kind of like speculation surrounding this interview appears to like try and say he was nervous, because I don't know if you caught that or not, but he was very heavy breathed, heavy breath.
It's breath.
Embreathened.
Embreathed. Oh,
Ooh.
That's not-
Charles,
that's not a real word. It's not a real word.
That's not too big.
No.
That's not a big enough
No,
word.
it's not a
yet.
big enough word.
But anyway, he was very embreathed. And a lot of people thought he was nervous, but I honestly think it was, like you said, he was very jaded, very grounded.
He's in pain.
He has gone through the gauntlet of suffering. Like if there's one person that has been through it, it's probably been Tim Tebow, from his on-field problems that he had after college, right? Like, we saw him be unjustly treated in the NFL.
That's debatable.
I mean, the whole.
I thought he was a pretty decent quarterback. A lot of football fans really buy into the propaganda. So, Debatable.
So
You're gonna get some arguments in the comment section
Yeah.
for that one.
I
1000%.
think he was a great quarterback. I mean, he led the Broncos to the playoffs like once or twice. I don't know the exact statistics around that, but
I think he took over like midway through the season maybe, and then got him into I think won a playoff game, and then
yeah. But he's been a very grounded person. He's been a very godly person, and he's been vocal about his following of Jesus Christ. One of the things that really stood out was the story that he talks about, where because he was prominent and known for John 3:16 on his dark shadow.
Have you seen the Untold documentary about the Florida Gators?
I have not.
It is one of the coolest documentaries. It is so good. Actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. Pretty much every Untold documentary. I think they do something on ping pong or pickleball. I might watch it.
Yeah.
Like they just do such a good job producing those documentaries. With the Florida one is incredible.
He's in it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they talk about their epic run from not being good to kind of being good to then they hired, I can't remember the coach off the top of my head, but then they recruited Tebow, got Tebow there. I think Tebow wanted to go to Notre Dame, but then actually picked Florida, and then just to see their rise into being one of the best dynasties in college history.
I honestly think he was a really good quarterback. I don't know if his religiousness kind of led to his exit in the NFL. I partially think it didn't fit their persona, their identity that they were going for. Although Colin Kaepernick did, right? Like we saw that. So, but one of the
I heard a thing about Colin Kaepernick's situation. So
he still wants in the NFL too.
So apparently there was but before everything popped off, before he threw a tantrum, because he actually may have either slept with or was pursuing a teammate's girlfriend or fiance, and then when that became known, he started getting ostracized, and he was sitting at lunches by himself, team lunches or whatever, and then he got benched, and when he got benched, he started sitting during the national anthem. But then somebody saw an opportunity and then hired him like a PR person, and then it went from sitting to kneeling. It went from just like pouting to then, hey, we can actually get something behind this and publicize it.
Yeah, we can make a movement and publicize it. You can make a bunch of money and get rich. And he did. I mean, he's still well off. He's probably more well off than most people right now.
Yeah.
But that being said, Tim Tebow, did you see that he wore John 3:16, and that was like his known thing. Like everybody knew that's the the Bible verse that he wore under his eye. Like he always lived by the word of John 3:16. And then 3 years later, I guess after winning a national title or a bowl game, I don't know what bowl or whatever they won, he actually went to play for the Broncos. And when he was playing for the Broncos in a playoff game, everything aligned. So he had
I know
316 passing yards.
Yeah.
The average watch time was 31.6. Like everything, that's if that doesn't tell you that Jesus Christ and God exist and are actually a thing, I don't know what else could align even more to make its presence known. Like make him.
Well, there's many things. There's miracles happening all the time.
Yeah.
We just either, choose to live under a veil of ignorance and pride, or we expose our hearts to a greater divine purpose, and we become educated and wiser on that by studying of the Word, and then that veil just kind of lifts.
It's very interesting. I mean, and now he's in. He has the Tim Tebow Foundation, which helps it helps children with disabilities and human trafficking. Like two completely different things. But one of the things that really stood out to me was during the interview with Sean Ryan, he was actually he held up a piece of paper that had over 100,000 names of
IP addresses
from human trafficking.
Yeah. 100,000
from the last 30 days.
In the last 30 days, yeah. 100,000 IP addresses that have been tracked, that have been.
And there was recently here where we're located a bust connected to the gang up in Austin for human trafficking too. They
Mhm.
found like 3 known leaders who are now in the county jail, waiting to be processed for human trafficking. Like, it's just such a scary day and age that we live in. Evil's all around us. This satanic cult that we all talk about, and there's this huge following around it. I mean, if you aren't turning to Scripture and God right now, I don't know why you're not. Like, you shouldn't be waiting. You should run to it, right?
Well, I mean, so one of the things that somebody was saying, so this is a trigger warning. This is very, very graphic. I'm going to try to PG this as much as possible. But there was an interview where a person, an investigator, was talking about how these demons, these animals, were hurting children in that bad way while also reading the Bible at the same time out loud, so that these kids would associate this awful, awful experience to God, so that they could hate God forever.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's so sad. It goes. Most of us live in this very comfortable bubble where hopefully, thankfully, you don't have to go through stuff like this ever. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it is actually happening around us.
Yeah.
And to ignore it and to deny it, even worse, and just to shut our eyes to it and turn because we are in this comfortable bubble, I think that also could set us up to be less vigilant to protect our own families. I had a friend tell me one time, he said, because I was posting about all of this stuff, like Khazarian Zionism, satanic human sacrifices, history of it, how it could be happening. I was actually talking about that kind of stuff on my previous Facebook before I canceled that. I deleted that in 2018 and got this new one. And, again, ostracized, this sounds ridiculous. There's no way. It sounds crazy. You might want to go to the doctor and get checked and blah, 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 getting all this stuff. I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine, and we're sitting down. He's like, you know what, man? I'll never forget this conversation. He said, you know what, man? Why it doesn't make sense to me why I would pay attention to that kind of stuff when all I should really be focusing on is my family. And I said, okay, it's not an awful point. I just stayed quiet. And I was like, yeah, I understand that. And he said, think about it this way. He said, why would somebody run into a minefield? That's just stupid. And in that moment, I just paused for a second and I looked at him and I was like, listen, man, I understand why you do what you do, but maybe you're just not built that way. You want to bring up the minefield analogy? I was like, have you seen Hacksaw Ridge? I said, there's 2 types of men in this world. There's a man that sees a minefield and thinks, this is stupid to walk through. But then the other kind of man walks through the minefield to go save lives. And that's actually happened. Mike Doss did that during the war, and that was documented by Mel Gibson in Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah.
And it's a true story. Didn't even have to hold a gun. So which type of man are you? And then he got aggressive. He got offended, because I was calling him a lesser man, or he felt like I was calling him a lesser man. But that's the point of it, right? There's just so much pride and cowardice when at the end of the day, our job as God-fearing men is not only to protect the widows, protect the orphans, protect people that aren't as fortunate as us, but that goes alongside with discipleship and living in a way that is described through the Word. So that only takes familiarization with the Word, and once you fortify your heart with the Word, then you grow that courage and you grow that wisdom in order to maneuver that minefield.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I agree. Like, I believe that there's an idea amongst some people, not just men, but an idea amongst some people who have a firm belief in the idea of I'd rather not know
Mhm.
because I'm safer than I would rather know
And have to do something.
and have to do something, right? And I mean, American Sniper. If you have you seen the movie American Sniper? It's an old. I think it came out like in 2014, 15, somewhere around there.
Before then, yeah.
About Chris Kyle,
Yep.
who was who was a U.S. Navy SEAL, and his wife tells him, you know, you're safer at home with me. And I believe his response was something along the lines of, "No, you're only safe because I'm over there."
Hmm.
Right? And his idea was that if we don't go and do these things, which I'm not in, like, I don't say go out and kill people, like, that's not, you just don't do it. But if there is this satanic cult and these bad people designed and wired to do evil, if we don't find the truth and pursue getting justice, then that evil is going to come to our home, our front door.
That's also why I believe that a lot of, you know, the virtue signaling side of politics, whichever side you are, like there is, but I do feel, you know, there are Republicans that virtue signal, there's Democrats that virtue signal. There's that, you know, hey, well, we need to help all these immigrants to come in and yada, yada, yada. You know, my mom was an immigrant, right? And she came through and, you know, she got a lowly job as a toilet cleaner at some bar on Nacogdoches. And, you know, she went to school, she did her thing. The things that she saw was crazy, she's told me about. And now she owns her own, like, independent massage business where she works for herself, right? Like, that is the kind of immigrant that makes America great. I full-fledged believe that quality immigrants are what make America great. It is the literal origin story of American history is that immigrants came here, we migrated to here,
Yeah.
and built this from the ground up. And to just let anybody in, you're flooding our justice system to where now we are almost, you know, putting our government in a stranglehold to have them, like, it's almost like we're inching towards martial law is what I'm trying to say. If you have all of this chaos, you have all of this craziness happening, now they can actually implement more laws. Somebody said when you have a society that does not fear God and loses control of itself, it does not deserve the freedom because it can't control its own actions. But a free country is earned through the acts of godly men protecting each other and their communities in order to keep that country safe. So by bringing in all of this evil, I feel like there is a conspiracy in a way in order to enact more laws, in order to enact more things that will make us more controlled, and they have the avenues to do it. You know, there's pagers blowing up on people's legs in foreign countries right now. You know, that's something that can be done. You know, so everybody has a phone now. Who's to say someone can't just remote detonate? Or just imagine a remote detonating phone technology. You know, I haven't heard of anything happening like that through all the things that I've read or seen, but it doesn't seem too far-fetched.
Well, I mean, a lithium-ion battery, if you apply an incorrect charge to it, it will explode. It's not going to be a violent explosion. It's not a thermobaric explosion, but it'd be a chemical explosion. It would catch on fire, and I mean, it would be chaotic for sure.
You would have some pretty bad burns.
I mean, it would burn a building down. It would also fill it with like sulfuric acid.
Right.
Like that's what's in it. It would turn into smoke.
And that's just one phone.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point about martial law, like I think that's kind of the game plan, right? Be from a certain body, we'll say, just to keep it PG, is that you just create so much chaos and so much friction amongst the people that it makes it that much more valid when you actually do put into place or affect martial law, right? Like now our government, you know, has so many subsidiaries associated with it from where it came. There's so many branches, there's so many departments, because as we modernize and as we evolve as a human society in a country, there's so much evil amongst our borders or within our own internal infrastructure that it becomes so hard to manage. So now you're just putting the people in place to basically manage. Like, it'd be like somebody putting you in place to manage me, and me putting somebody in place to manage, Charles.
And if people are actually getting
snap.
into these political positions,
Look at
into
this big
into
spider.
these offices,
Goodbye, Mr. Spider.
and they're getting lobbied and paid for by foreign entities like Soros,
Dude, that thing is
Yeah.
right? And then they get into office, and now they're like judges or DAs, and they are part of the world leaders, young leaders, World Economic Forum, whatever. And then they're just so lackadaisical and lenient on offenders, repeat offenders, getting. I think I saw I saw a report that was it in California? They're early releasing pedophiles and violent offenders. There's like a bill that's passing in order to.
I believe it's in order to soften up the blow of the infrastructure overwhelmed within their own prison systems, and money.
Yeah, it's retarded.
It's stupid. It's like, hopefully Tim Tebow's on top of them, like waiting outside of the gate for them with his foundation. I mean, Tim Tebow's a big dude now too. I mean, he's always been
pretty big.
pretty big, but yeah, I mean, it's the number one rule of martial law and running a government body is if you want to control, you got to create fear.
Yeah, and I'll end with this. To simplify, I feel like there's two targets in our country, and it's our kids and it's our guns. If they hurt the kids, they indoctrinate the kids, they groom the kids, eventually the kids will just constantly live in fear, and then you just constantly bombard them with headlines about mass shootings, and which that's a whole other rabbit hole, because apparently they're finding out that there are, I guess, agents or CIA agents or former CIA agents or whatever that
Like Alyssa Slotkin,
almost act as handlers, and they become therapists, and then they do therapy for these kids. And
and then they also they implement agents into the government, like Alyssa Slotkin. She was the one who gave the rebuttal to Trump's State of the Union, or I guess his early joint address to Congress. I mean, she's a literal CIA asset. The CIA has their fingers in everything. And to go to your earlier point, too, there are two quotes that I think about a lot when we're talking about this subject. One of them is from the Emperor Tiberius. He says, "A wicked ruler most loves those who sin." The reason why is because they create the ability for them to impose these maximal restraints. Why did the government allow or participate in 9/11? Well, they did it so they could introduce the Patriot Act and turn citizens into criminals, and allow criminals out onto the streets through the programs that we're talking about now.
And the Patriot Act gave the government essentially full access to all technology.
Exactly. Well, and then Plato also said, too, the tyrant must inevitably associate with the worst elements, even foreigners, for they are the ones who will serve him most loyally, while the virtuous citizens he must destroy or fear. Like, this is an ancient principle. It's why we see the importation of these massive amounts of foreigners as well. The reason why is because they're happy to serve the tyrannical rulers in whatever case, while the citizens are the ones who bear the brunt of the issue. And when the citizens no longer exist, well, all they have left is the people that they imported, and then they get to do whatever they want to them.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, to your point about like evil satanic cult leaders ruling things, I mean, Trump was just over in the Middle East meeting with this, and I'm going to probably butcher this, but the Saudi president.
Don't even try to say his name.
No, but here's what I find interesting is that the Al-Shahara.
Look at Ernest
Al-Shahara.
word of the day. Let's
Big
go.
word of the day.
Okay, that's not second.
No, we had a $10 million bounty that had been placed on this man for decades because of counterterrorism between the Soviet and Saudis back in the day. And now Trump's making amends and basically doing away with that. And now we have this huge, $1 billion trade deal that's going on with the Saudis. While we're getting pushback from some leftists saying that this is just a personal deal for Trump.
Did you see even CNN, they were reporting that inflation has decreased at a surprising amount, an unexpected amount?
Yeah,
It
unexpected.
was like 2.1%.
Well, I mean, when we look at the cost of actual goods right now, like things are decreasing and de-inflating, right? Or deflating, as I would say. De-inflating. Deflating. They are.
We should have an
I-
earnest
I-
word of
I-
the day where it's
so,
the opposite.
yeah.
Opposite
Charles.
words of the day. I got a spider right here that,
Uh-huh.
that I'm paranoid about right now.
Well, and so my topic too is about the Middle Eastern tour. I've been focusing a lot on watching what's been happening, and I want
Yeah.
to talk about the actual substance of it, but then additionally the thing that's left out. But finish your thought, please.
No, so my original thought is like, these big trade deals that everybody thought were, these tariffs that everybody thought were going to be bad are actually turning out to be good. We saw an uprising recently in China because some banks were actually going bankrupt and not having the money to actually supply their
Yes.
their customers.
Well, additionally, factory workers are actually out in the streets protesting right now too. And the thing is too, we think about China as being this large, lorded over realm by Xi, but it's not. As with all communist political systems, and they're a market communist, whatever that means, country. Now they're a blended economy is probably the best way to put it with Marxist communist elements. Power is not really as guaranteed, and I think that they will have to do something very shortly here because Xi could easily be replaced at any moment by somebody else who would be totally happy to cut a deal. That's just how China's always worked. And
Cutting deals.
yeah, well, and not only that, I mean, Xi is no stranger to that. He does it all the time with his
Yeah.
political opponents, rivals, and corporation heads as well if they don't play ball.
Right. Well, and I think what a lot of people misunderstand too is like, no offense to China, but people see like what we see here in the States of China is completely different than what's actually happening, right? And this kind of goes back into the indoctrination, right? Like if you want to control the people, you indoctrinate them. And they start indoctrinating our kids at such a young age. I mean, from the moment they go to kindergarten and start going through that educational system, like they're
Yes.
beginning to get that indoctrination. They're being groomed to believe what they're being taught. And as we grow up and as what we're fed, the propaganda from the media, it's completely different. You talk to people that were in China during the lockdowns and they're like, absolutely not. Like, our hospitals were full, but nothing was closed down. It was mainly like the big areas where a lot of people tend to congregate, like your markets and stuff like that. But we were still living life as normal. So what you guys were being fed, like, oh my God, nobody's in the street after 4 p.m. Like, she's controlling everything and shutting all these doors. And, this military force is going door to door. Like it was.
Well, and that was propaganda partially put out by China themselves to encourage it to create great market conditions for them, and it also caused a lot of closures of businesses that were actually in direct competition with China, like in the manufacturing sector in other countries. The State Department also participated in that as well. They helped spread that propaganda, and then they spread it to the Congress. And because Congress is a bunch of old boomers, they're like, well, I don't want to die before I retire, so let's close everything down.
Well, and that also created this kind of tying it into inflation. It created this micro official inflation, right? Because when we saw this with COVID, like the lack of goods, the lack of supplies being sent like overseas, it created this micro official inflation that never really existed, but they drove the price of goods up. They drove the price of stuff up from China. Like,
So I'm no inflationary expert or an economist, but I want to call this segment for those that are dumb like me when it comes to the economy. Inflation, the diet version. So this is going to be the layman's segment of what is inflation, what's the update as of today, right? So, all right, folks, time for your favorite game. Is my money worth less today? Quick update, inflation just cooled to 2.3%. That's the lowest it's been since people still said YOLO unironically. Prices for gas and groceries are finally chilling out, but rent still acting like it's trying to buy a Tesla. The Fed's playing it cool. No rate cuts yet. They're basically waiting for inflation to stop ghosting them before they make any moves. Meanwhile, tariffs are like that ex who says they've changed, but you're still not sure. Moral of the story, your dollar isn't sprinting anymore, but it's still doing a light jog uphill.
I know I went and pumped diesel this morning, and I was happy. That was the first time
What's diesel at this morning?
This morning it was at 272.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
yeah,
Congratulations.
I was like, heck yeah, man! Finally getting some relief. And I mean, unleaded was like 252, 254, somewhere around there.
I can
So
tolerate that.
it is very digestible. You know, just from a week and a half ago where we saw it at like 299.
Do you guys do Gas Buddy by chance?
I do Upside.
Upside.
Can
we talk about the difference?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What are those?
I mean, that's why we're here.
So
what are those at all?
So
You do Upside, I'll do Gas Buddy.
So I do Upside. Upside is a mobile application that you can download to your phone that gives you money back at the pump. So basically, you as a gas pumper could go pump fuel at a gas station, and it compares prices amongst other local gas stations.
What's your
and
monthly fee?
gives you the discount. It's free.
Well, I'm getting screwed.
So all you got to do is click the link down below, sign up for Upside today. But anyway, on average, you could save anywhere from about 10 to 15 cents per gallon that you pump. So, but it basically analyzes all of the gas, finds the lowest gas in the area, says, well, you're 5 miles from that lowest gas. We're going to give you 10 cents off the pump here at Shell that's quarter mile away from your house.
You may have sold me just because I'm paying like a $9.99 monthly. Does pretty much the exact same thing. I'm going to actually do a complete side-by-side. Oh, wait. ChatGPT. Gas Buddy versus Upside side-by-side comparison.
So on average, we get about anywhere from about $20 to $30 in cash back every month. The cool thing about Upside too is that they do food. So we ordered Pizza Hut the other night, and we literally got like $15 back off our order of $30.
That's sick.
So it is pretty dope.
So you get cash back. You can find the cheapest gas prices. Okay.
Find it. They have. So here is the Upside app. So like here's all the food, right? So I can go and get 6% back at the lounge, 5% back, and you don't need any special card. It links to your bank account, so it gets that
cash back on groceries and restaurants.
Cash back on groceries and restaurants. I like the gas. The gas is usually about 10 cents to 15 cents. For newcomers, you actually get about 40 cents off, 40 cents back per gallon. So you get one of the higher rates. But yeah, I mean, it's helped us fight this, inflational period that we've been going through by getting cash back without having to go get a major credit card.
For the summary, it says Gas Buddy is best if you want to find the lowest gas price before filling up. Upside is best if you want cash back on gas purchases, even if the price per gallon isn't the absolute lowest. Some users even use both. Check Gas Buddy for the cheapest price and see if that station is also offering cash back on Upside.
You would have to be pumping a lot of gas to make $10 back, though, I think, on 10 cents per gallon.
So it shows me my savings when I do it right. And I fill up once a week. I have an average savings, I'd say, between $3.50 and $4.50, so a median of $4. So
okay. Yeah.
$7, I guess.
Pair the both, it sounds like.
But I have to be driving, right?
But
So
if you're, let's just
Makes
say,
sense. I don't drive as much anymore, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me pull up the calculator here, wherever my calculator is. On average, you got a 26-gallon tank, right?
Yeah.
So you figure at 10 cents, you're at $2.60 per fill up that you get in cash back. It might only be like a 3 to 4 cent difference at the pump.
Well, it depends because I'll have like a 5 cent savings, but then there's also that are 20 cent savings.
Right. But then you eat out a lot too, right?
Yes.
So Upside is probably you're better because you get cash back on your food.
I'm going to do both.
Do both. And then we'll create a hybrid app. I'll code it and we'll release it to you guys.
The Truth Disorder gas app.
Because I told you I worked in big tech, right? So kind of going back into the Middle East, Trump's visit to the Middle East. Charles, you said there's quite a bit going on there that you've been analyzing.
Yeah, so there's multiple different things going on. So the first and most important thing to mention is the reason why this hasn't happened before, and this is the meeting with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, and with the United Arab Emirates, and any kind of trade deals, was a precondition of any trade deals from the previous administration and from Trump's first term was that these countries would have to recognize Israel not only as a state, but also its claim over Palestine. That was the Biden administration's stated goal. So they weren't willing to do any kind of deals, cut any kind of deals with these countries. Trump and his team dropped that precondition. They went over to Saudi Arabia. They're in Qatar today, and tomorrow they'll be in the United Arab Emirates, and they're actually cutting these major deals. Now, it's not just defense deals. For Saudi Arabia, they're actually going to be investing $600 billion of boutique investment into different industries in the United States, especially in the tech sector. And in return, they're also going to be getting, I believe, several different aircraft deals. I don't believe the CEO of Boeing was there for that visit, but he definitely was there today in Qatar. When Trump was in Doha, he actually set up a deal with Qatar. Let me look really quickly. So they're going to be selling 160 Boeing aircraft for about $200 billion.
Wow.
So it's a variety of different ones. They're going to be civilian and military, which is a reasonable first. That really hasn't happened with Qatar. We provide them with small arms ammunition and large bore artillery, as well as some rocket systems.
And that's a better deal than what we did in Afghanistan, which is just leave them.
Yeah. So it would leave them all there in the dirt for zero reason.
Just to
And
get reverse engineered by China.
So we left a lot of military equipment.
We left $80 billion worth of military
and
equipment in the dirt.
that was an Obama thing, if I remember.
No,
No,
Biden.
it was Biden.
Was it Biden?
Mhm,
Okay,
yeah.
so it was a Biden
It
thing.
was 2021.
But that's the same material that isn't it Iran or what Iraq ended up getting, because we have a foreign country that's kind of our nemesis
Yeah.
that we weaponized basically by leaving all that stuff over there.
Well, and not only that too. A lot of that stuff, just like the arms that went over to Ukraine, when we do that, not only do they arm themselves with it, they're also selling it on the black market to our
Aren't they
enemies as well.
building, I don't know if this is true, but aren't they building a railroad from Afghanistan to Asia?
Yeah, it's the Belt and Road Initiative.
Right.
Yeah, it's part of China.
That's
it's
scary.
What they do. Yeah.
So does the railroad curve to the earth, or is it flat under the ground?
I want to avoid this rabbit hole today so bad.
So
I feel like John
interesting
Hansen.
Gosh, where do you guys come up with this?
Where is this coming from?
So what I find interesting is that we're actually providing arms to Saudi. I think that's what the Saudis are after with this kind of deal with Trump right now, is that they need the security patrolling, and also they need to be weaponized. So what I find interesting is like they're asking for all of this to protect themselves from who? Right?
Us?
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think that part of what they're doing is because the overarching strategy, and Trump talked about it, the Saudi Arabia speech that he gave actually in front of Prince Mohammed bin Salman was really excellent for so many different reasons. But one of the things that he talked about is, hey, like we're going to have to put maximum pressure on Iran. We don't want to get into a conventional conflict with them. But part of the goal of this maximum pressure campaign should be to encourage them to join us in this new era of prosperity and peace in the Middle East. He actually talked a lot about the prior foreign policy, and he stated as well, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits. He talked about how the things that they created weren't given to them. They weren't created by these people who had planned to rebuild Afghanistan, rebuild Iraq after destroying it. It was a criticism of the foreign policy that had come before. And the goal is, I think, by providing these aircraft and the weapons defense systems to these countries, that's part of the maximum pressure campaign. And it also means, too, that we don't need to have, I think it's like, 80-plus military bases within 200 miles of Iran's border. We don't need that anymore.
Do we have any in Saudi, like Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a couple.
We have a couple bases, yeah. They're mostly like military transport for other ones. But then the other thing is, too, if these countries have the ability to like launch an F-18 Hornet, which can carry up to 12,000 pounds of conventional and laser-guided and IR-guided and TV-guided missiles and bombs, we don't need to have those bases there. And then also it encourages Iran to play nice as well. I'm not a big Iran hater. I don't have any specific problem with them. Like, I don't... And maybe this is crazy to say, but I don't even really blame them. I mean, we overthrew their government.
Yeah.
And we installed a theocracy, an Islamic theocracy on top of their country, whereas previously they'd been one of the most progressive places in the Middle East. We ruined them. I'm not surprised that they hate us. It kind of makes a lot of sense. I don't think we need to bomb them into the dirt either. I think we need to encourage economic cooperation. I think there's a country in the Middle East that would love for us to bomb them into the dirt, and I think it would be a gigantic mistake. It would be one of the biggest mistakes we've ever made. I think they would. I think that they would not win, but I think it would be like Vietnam on steroids. It would be the worst possible thing for us.
Right.
And then also in this entire thing, the country that shall not be named is also not included on the list. Trump isn't visiting Israel. There's been a lot of tension, I think, with the Likud party and with Benjamin Netanyahu, especially with the recent Signal Gate. It was revealed that actually the reason why that happened, one of the members of the chat, I can't remember his name. It may be Steve Witkoff, but I don't believe it is. Actually put Jeffrey Goldberg into that chat on purpose in order to encourage the removal of Pete Hegseth. Remember how the media immediately started screaming for that? They're saying, well, it's all Pete's fault. Get him out of there. And it's because Pete Hegseth doesn't want to bomb Iran into the dirt. And neither does Trump.
Because they know it'd be bad.
It would be a gigantic mistake.
The escalation.
I think it would be a nation ender for us and for them. And for Israel,
I mean,
by the way.
it would trigger all. It would definitely kick off the nuclear war.
Yes, 100%. I don't think that Russia or China would stand by and just let us do it either. Iran is one of their biggest partners, really, truly. And it's just a mistake too. Like you can have a problem with the political leadership. I have a problem with the political leadership of Iran and of Israel as well. I think that Benjamin Netanyahu is a bad person, and I think that he encourages the creation of Hamas the same way that we encourage the creation of ISIS to have a bad guy to fight and retain political power with.
Right.
It's the point.
And I haven't stayed up to speed on all of this yet, but I do know that I believe Trump got a piece of peace between both.
A temporary ceasefire.
Yeah, the ceasefire between Israel and
Israel. They actually violated it within 10 days.
Right, they didn't release the hostages or something like that.
Yeah, Hamas didn't release the hostages. Israel kept fighting them. I would imagine that if you look at the top leaders of Hamas, I imagine a lot of their training came from Mossad, but that's a topic for another day. But really, in light of all of what's going on here, the most interesting thing is that we're creating these partnerships with these states that normally we're not even allowed to talk to because they don't kowtow to our greatest ally in the Middle East. Now we're actually out here making these incredible trade deals with them. And I think that we're actually potentially going to see peace in the Middle East for the first time in any of our lives.
That fulfills prophecy.
Yeah.
That's the fifth seal.
Sixth, I think.
Sixth seal. Fifth or sixth, one of those.
Yeah.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing if you follow the Bible. If people who follow the Bible know what's coming.
Well, the Antichrist is prophesized to bring peace on earth, essentially, but it starts there.
But that's in the
and
sixth
then
seal.
Israel would be essentially protected and safe for a set number of years, and then it'll all come crashing down, basically. And then when it all comes crashing down, that's when the Antichrist ascends and the beast system is introduced.
I just don't know if I believe in that messianic prophesizing. I think that's actually my biggest problem with the Likud party. Funny enough, I think that's because they're the ones who believe in like the red heifer signaling the coming of the next age, and I think that's why they're doing all these things in the Middle East in the first place. I think it's why they've had us encourage all these wars. I think they've started pretty much every war we've been in the Middle East at the encouragement through AIPAC of our government. I frankly don't care. I think it needs to end, regardless. And I think that the Likud party needs to be removed from power because there are plenty of voices in Israel who say, "Hey, like, why are we doing this? One, why are we ethnically cleansing Gaza? Two, why are we engaging in all these Middle Eastern wars? And three, why are we asking the U.S. to do this? Because now the U.S., large portions of it, do not like Israel as a whole. When just like our country, 95% of Israelis probably don't want to continue the war either, especially since they have mandatory service. By the way,
Right.
Even if you're a dual citizen in the United States, that's what happened with the gentleman who was just returned.
So what happens, Gary? In the sixth seal, we're talking about peace in the Middle East, like it fulfills prophecy. I think I mentioned it to you when we were just chatting out here, but there have been rumors and talks about the I don't want to butcher the name, so drop the name. The
Mahdi or
the
Anunnaki?
Anunnaki.
Oh yeah.
Returning back to.
I wanted to give you a good answer, so I actually just used AI to give me something. So the sixth seal is opened. What happens when the sixth seal is opened from Revelation 6:12 through 17? A great earthquake occurs. The sun becomes black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The moon turns blood red. The stars fall to the earth like figs dropping from a fig tree shaken by a strong wind. The sky recedes. Every mountain and island is moved. Human reaction: kings, princes, generals, the rich, the mighty, everyone else, both slave and free, hide in caves and among the rocks of the mountains. Which is very interesting because we actually just somebody just released a whistleblower released that trillions of dollars were spent by the elite in order to build these caves, preparing for a massive event. You guys see that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, there was.
They did release. That's like $21 trillion or something like
Yeah.
that.
That was government, the
Yeah.
taxpayer funded that for these massive underground places.
Cities.
So
Well, and I would also wonder if that's linked to too, because Zuckerberg's actually spoken about this, the magnetic pole shifts that are happening. Like we're seeing the North Pole actually shift southwesterly. We're seeing it pretty consistently happening. It's been happening for decades and decades.
And what's crazy is as we're talking about like coming into the Sixth Seal because the Middle East, peace with the Middle East and the prophecy, ChatGPT, biblical context for Revelation 6:12 through 17, great earthquake, the sun turning black, the moon becoming like blood, like you just mentioned. But it talks about the Anunnaki, gods not originally connected to biblical prophecy, coming back to basically retrieve its ancestors.
I
or
wonder if
people.
that's going to be a psyop that's going to be leveraged by Project Bluebeam.
Very possible.
Right. Like they just put them off in the sky and people start losing their shit. They make these idle threats just so people can accept the mark,
Mm-hmm.
be
Well-
conquered and say like, because just imagine you just, they have a Project Bluebeam situation where, if they could fool everybody with 9/11, and you have this massive monster that's in the sky. It's, oh, you're not obeying me, country, and does this number, and then just a freaking nuke just pops out of there, right?
Yeah.
Like they could think that that's actual like a giant person doing that, but it's just they're using tech to fool everybody.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you showed a caveman a hologram. Yeah,
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 exactly.
very similar idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. The Bluebeam thing's always been super interesting to me. I think that if they tried it, the problem is they would just be met with mostly apathy. I think that people have been flattened so much by the weird industrialized society we live in.
Like that Jonah Hill movie.
I actually wonder how much people would actually care.
Do you remember what's the
The
name
end
of
of
that
the
movie?
world. End of the world.
End of the
Yeah.
world.
Mhm.
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not the end of the world.
Isn't it?
This is the end.
This is the end. That's right.
No. There's
Yeah.
another one that he like where like
It's
they
got
talk about there's an asteroid that's going to hit the Earth, and they discovered the asteroid that's
it's him,
a world
Seth
ender.
Rogen, and
Mm-hmm.
Is it Seth Rogen? Okay.
That was like all of their friends.
yeah, it's like Seth Rogen. You have
It's like tons of people.
what's the dude's name from Eastbound and Down?
Isn't it like them being themselves?
That
too?
is
that the
that
movie
is
we're talking
that is
about?
This is the end. That's the wrong movie.
No, okay.
About an asteroid. Look, it's going to pop right up.
That movie was freaking hilarious.
That was
though.
very funny.
Mm,
This
it was
one's
a good movie.
Don't Look Up. That's what it's
Don't
called.
look up. I've never
Don't
seen
Look
it.
Up. You guys haven't seen Don't Look Up?
No,
It's
it
exactly-
looked like a propaganda movie. I didn't watch
No,
it.
it's actually it's exactly what you just said. They warn everybody that there's a world-ending asteroid that they discovered. Jonah Hill obviously plays a douchebag.
Well, I see it. The U.S. president is Meryl Streep, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Besides the
No
point.
wonder why you thought it was propaganda.
But the people had been so they touch on how the people are so flattened. I love that term. They're so flattened by just likes and their egos, and nobody cares. They're just
Well, the
laughing at
economic
them.
situation too.
Dude,
I
it's
think
all-
there's a lot of people where if extraterrestrial being via Project Blue Book came and threatened the Earth and said we're
Yeah.
gonna destroy you all, they'd probably be like, hey, go ahead, fuck it.
Take a
So,
selfie.
so with all these trade deals, though, how does Trump bring peace to the Middle East? Because I mean, you have the Ukraine Russia stuff, you have the Israel Hamas stuff going down. He got the ceasefire done in both deals, I believe.
Yes.
In both instances. But like you mentioned, Israel violated it within 10 days.
Yes. Because Hamas didn't release the hostages.
But to tie it all together, how does he bring peace to the Middle East with all these trade deals?
That's a great question, and he actually answers it with a couple of different lines from the speech. He says, it's crucial for the wider world to know that this great transformation, speaking about Saudi Arabia, speaking about the UAE, which are some of the most, technologically advanced societies on earth now when you look at the way that their countries are run, very similar to Tokyo in a way, that this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. I can't remember. It was an Eastern African nation's ruler who actually said, the problem is with China versus the U.S. and our loyalty to them, he said this in a televised interview, is that the West sends us a plane with a person who gives us a lecture, and China sends us a hospital that we pay for over the next 30 years. Interesting thought, by the way. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionalists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Baghdad and so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing their own sovereign countries, pursuing their own unique visions, and charting their own destinies in their own way. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately come not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing the same heritage that you love so dearly. The path towards peace is, as it always has been, it's not through telling other people how to live, because they'll hate you for that, and they should. They should, frankly. It's through these trade deals. It's through opening up cooperation between these countries. And then also, if you're having a really sick party and everybody's making a lot of money, and Iran is sitting over there saying, well, they don't want to bomb us anymore. They aren't really listening to Israel, who really wants to bomb us. Instead, they're having a really sick party, and it'd be kind of cool if we joined. I would think that'd be a good reason for the mullahs to actually call Trump or call Marco Rubio, Big Marco as we call him now, and
The rude
say,
dog.
and say, what can we do? What can we do?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't they? Frankly, it would make a lot of sense.
So the scenario that I see is I see that exact scenario that, you know, we get this peace in the Middle East, but we still have turmoil on our own soil, right? Like we're always gonna have.
Are
this
you a rapper now?
turmoil on our own
Peace
soil.
in the Middle East, but turmoil in our own soul.
I mean, but what does true world peace look like? Besides,
tell me,
besides
wordsmith.
the basketball player, right? Like,
Okay,
What it looks like is complex trade systems that are so interlinked that you can't go to war anymore. One of the prerequisites, actually, when World War I kicked off after Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, was all of the different powers stopped trading with each other pretty much instantaneously, which immediately allowed the setting for war.
so everybody trading with everybody getting along. We have this huge, like, fantastic party. We have world peace for once. What does our world look like?
Well, it'll be temporary. I think that's the important thing to remember. Peace always is, unfortunately. It's kind of the human condition.
There is always evil that has to break in through those
Yeah.
barriers, right? Somebody will start something.
Yeah. I don't know. It could be anyone, anywhere, at any point, right? But I think that this is a really good start, especially with UAE, which is going to be happening tomorrow. Apparently, it's a nebulous $1.4 trillion worth of investments over the next 10 years in the United States. For Qatar, it was 1.2. Neither one of the details have really been released on that, but that's what it's going to look like. And I think even if it's a temporary peace, the thing is, too, these countries, if they have the means to protect themselves and the ability to do so, and Saudi Arabia has one of the highest tech sectors, highest high-tech sectors in the world right now, besides the United States and Japan, frankly.
Well, they're so rich.
Yes, they are. I think that what we'll see is, I think they will, at the very least, we're going to get the benefits of those deals.
Well, the benefit I see from the Saudis for us is not only the technology sector that they have and the advancement in technology. You know, everybody's always been so much more advanced than the U.S. in the tech sector. But with that being said, the one thing that I think that we'll get out of this trade deal is that we'll get cheap oil. Not cheap, but cheap-ish.
I mean, here's the problem, though. Texas has more oil than Saudi Arabia, right?
That is a true statement.
That's part of the problem. I
But
think
we've shut all our oil reserves off.
I think that what's happening is actually, because it's the famous quote. I can't remember. It was one of the sheiks who said it. He said, "My father rode a camel. No, excuse me. My grandfather rode a camel. My father drove a jeep." Like the actual army truck Jeep, not like a Jeep. I drive a Mercedes, and my children will drive Maybachs, and their children's will drive nothing. Well, maybe he said camels, but I think it's more poetic.
Because it'll
I think.
reset.
But yeah,
Yes.
like post World War III,
Yeah.
everybody will fight with sticks and stones.
Well, and I don't even think he was saying that. What he was saying is, at the time in the 80s, our economy is so dependent on oil. There will be a day where we move past that as a world, which I think nuclear is probably the
like
highest
clean
possibility.
energy.
Well, I mean, not even that. Maybe just going on to nuclear.
Talking like
Yeah.
Tesla's sustainable energy.
That
Well,
Cybertruck.
And then if you're in Saudi Arabia and you understand, as they very well do, because they're importing, their researchers and their oil field technicians from the state of Texas in most cases, by the way, and Alaska.
Yeah.
They know that there's more oil here. We just haven't tapped it yet, frankly. They know that they have to diversify. That's why they've diversified their tech sector. Trump actually talked about that. He said, for the first time in all of your history, the other economic sectors of your economy are actually outstripping your oil production. So I think that they know that, and I don't think oil would be a good deal. I think it would be way more impactful for us to get their oodles and oodles of money building factories here. We should become a manufacturing hub again. We should be selling them oil, frankly. I think that'd be really funny.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it'd be
Get
fun.
that along with our stock market, and we're Gucci.
Yeah.
Dude, that XRP, bro.
Heyo.
Ayo. You know
Next
what I'm
week,
talking about.
next week we're talking
Oh, yeah.
about XRP
Next
Next
RP
and Project Bluebeam.
Next RP. Next week we'll talk about XRP
and de-inflation.
I don't know if these headphones confuse me or whatnot. I got like Gary coming in through the right ear. I'm talking.
That's
in the
why I
left
got
ear.
these.
Yeah, I'm gonna need those. Next week we're gonna talk about some cryptocurrency. Talk about XRP stocks. Let's diversify a little bit.
Perfect.
Love it.
Absolutely.
My fave.
But you want to say a little prayer for everybody, Gary?
Sure.
You
Why
like
not?
to close?
Yeah,
whatever
close.
whatever you're feeling.
Whatever I'm feeling. I wasn't ready for that.
Dude.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming out to Truth Disorder. I pray that everybody has an amazing week this week. I pray that if you have a hardened heart, I pray that God softens it for you. I pray that God reveals himself to you. I pray that you get close to the Word. If you're not close to the Word yet, get you an understandable version of the Word on an app that you have on your phone that's going to change your life. It's done a 180 in mine. Well, maybe like a 160, but I'm still trying. We're all trying. We're all imperfect. And thank you for checking in with us on Truth Disorder this week. We may not always be right, but we are always chasing the truth, and we hope that you do the same thing. So God bless everybody out there, and thanks for checking in.
Thanks for being here, everybody.
Yeah.
Lighters.